010301, Installing VMware Tools in Windows. You're watching a video covering installing VMware tools. In this video I'll show you how to install the VMware tools in Windows, and in a separate movie we'll cover how to install the VMware tools in Linux. To install VMware tools, our virtual machine actually has to be running. So we've got our Windows 2008 virtual machine running here, and you just right-click on it. Guest, and select Install Upgrade VMware Tools. It says installing the VMware Tools package will greatly enhance graphics and mouse performance in your virtual machine. Warning, you cannot install the Virtual Tools package until Guest operating system is running. So we've got it running. We can also upgrade the VMware Tools automatically without interacting with the Guest OS if we'd like. I'm going to go ahead and do it manually so that we can see how it's done. I'll click OK. Let's go over to our Windows 2008 virtual machine here and open up the console, and it's going to launch the VMware Tools installer automatically. And I'll click Run Setup.exe. And if this virtual machine already had the VMware tools on it, I would say Install or Upgrade up here. I'm going to click Next. And we're presented with three setup options: Typical, Complete, and Custom. You can select the type of installation based on what you'd like to achieve. Each option is pretty self-explanatory. I suggest Custom Install so you can see what you're really installing, or Complete to make sure all drives are installed. I will select Custom and then I'll click Next. Now I can expand the list of VMware drivers so that you can see them all. Memory Control Driver, ThinPrint, Paravirtualized SCSI, VMX-Net NIC Driver, Audio Driver, VMX-Net 3 NIC Driver, Volume Shadow Copy Service, WISE support. So VMware tools are something you're pretty much almost always going to go ahead and install in your guest operating system, because really they can only help you out. Now I can click on this drop-down menu here, select this feature, and all sub-features will be installed on local hard drive to make sure all drivers are installed, and I will click Next. It comes up with a warning to let me know that WISE multimedia support is not offered on Windows 2008 server, but it is okay since that server is not a WISE client or server. So I'll click Install, and that is going to launch VMware Tools Install on my server. Once the installation wizard is completed, I'll click Finish. I'll tell you to reboot your guest operating system normally. Windows OS will reboot, and I'll log in real quick by going to VM, send Control-Alt-Delete. The most visible benefit of VMware tools are that you'll get better video performance and that you can move your mouse pointer freely into and out of the VM console window. On VMware server platforms, VMware Tools also installs other important system services such as virtual machine heartbeat monitoring and time synchronization. After the VMware Tools installation is complete and the virtual machine is rebooted, the system tray displays an icon of the VMware logo. The logo on the system tray indicates a successful VMware Tools installation. Now, after installing VMware Tools in a Windows guest operating system, configuring graphics hardware acceleration to its maximum setting provides a much smoother console session performance. The VMware Tools installation routine reminds the user to set this value at the end of the installation, but if the user chooses not to set hardware acceleration at that time, it can easily be set later. This is highly recommended to optimize the graphical performance of the virtual machine's console. Perform the following steps to adjust the hardware acceleration in a virtual machine running Windows. Right-click on an empty area of the window and select the Personalize option. And click the Advanced Settings button. Select the Troubleshooting tab. Change settings. To the full setting on the right, and it'll tell you to reboot your system normally. Windows OS will reboot, and I'll log into my virtual server by going to VM, Guest, Send Control-Alt-Delete. By double-clicking the VMware logo in the system tray, or by right-clicking that small VM icon down here, you can open the VMware Tools Properties dialog box. Here you can configure time synchronization, hide VMware tools from the taskbar. Clock synchronization is by default unchecked. This is to prevent two services syncing the clock, like NTP or Active Directory. If you are not running any clock synchronization software, make sure VMware Tools is doing this for you. It is a best practice to install VMware Tools in every virtual machine. Use caution when enabling time synchronization between the guest OS and the ESX host, since Windows domain members rely on Kerberos for authentication, and Kerberos is sensitive to time differences between computers. A Windows-based guest OS that belongs to an Active Directory domain is already configured with a native time synchronization process against the domain controller. If the ESX server time is different from the master domain controller, the guest OS could end up moving outside the 5-minute window that Kerberos allows. After the 5-minute window is exceeded, Kerberos begins experiencing errors with authentication and replication. You can take a few approaches to managing time synchronizations in a virtual environment. The first approach involves not using VMware Tools time synchronization and relying instead on the Win32 time service and a PDC emulator with a registry edit that configures synchronization with an external time server. Another approach involves disabling the native time synchronization across the Windows domain and then relying on the VMware Tools feature. A third approach might be to synchronize the VMware ESX hosts and the PDC emulator Operations Master with the same external time server, and then to enable the VMware Tools option for synchronization. In this case, both the native Win32 time service and VMware Tools should be adjusting the time to the same value. I'll click Devices here, and I can enable or disable particular devices such as IDE 1, floppy, or network card. Under Scripts, I can create scripts to suspend, resume, shut down, or turn on a virtual machine. This Shrink tab is new in ESX4. The Shrink option in VMware Tools prepares a virtual disk for exporting to other VMware products such as VMware Workstation and VMware Server by using the smallest possible disk files. A virtual disk can, however, be exported without using this option. In About, we can check the version of VMware Tools we are running.